Welcome, everyone, to the final Real Speaker Series event of 2024, Navigating Anxiety in 2E Learners, Therapy Options and Home Strategies. We're so excited to have our guests here and to have you here. Just in case you're not familiar with Real, we are a local nonprofit that strives to ensure Silicon Valley Twice Exceptional students thrive in school. And we host events such as this for parents. And we also do professional development for educators. So if you're here, you're probably familiar with twice exceptionality, but just in case, we'll talk about the definition we like to use that comes from Bridges. We think of 2E as learners who have both distinguishing strengths, high abilities, or potential in one or more areas, and complex challenges such as dyslexia, ADHD, autism, and anxiety, among others. And these combine with what we like to call to make a green learner. So they are exhibiting the strengths and the challenges at the same time. And you can't teach to one or the other. You have to meet the learners at both ends of the spectrum. And so it makes them quite a complex learning profile, which can cause anxiety. And so we'll be talking more about that tonight. If you visit our website at real2e.org, we have recordings of all our previous events. We have a lot of articles that were written by various experts. We have downloadable guides and many things all organized by topic for you so that you can learn more about whatever interests you about twice exceptionality. And just to let you know about some of our upcoming events, we have a bi-monthly parent support group that the dates here are the next ones that we will be meeting in. We are going to have a panel of writing experts talking about writing solutions for 2E learners in January. We will celebrate Neurodiversity Celebration Week with an amazing student panel. And we are also going to have someone speaking about executive functioning at home and in school. About specifically for twice exceptional learners. You can RSVP for all these events at real2e.org. We are also part of a group of organizations that is hosting the Neurodiversity Speaker Series, who is going to host an event about thinking differently about social uses of media for neurodivergent youth. You can attend this talk and see all the recordings of the previous talks that have been hosted. There's some really amazing speakers on there at neurodiversityspeakerseries.org. In addition, Real hosts a Google group that now has 800 parents in it who ask and answer questions for each other, suggest resources, and vent and commiserate together. So you can feel free to join our group. I think Callie will put the link in the chat for you. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all of our previous recordings are on our YouTube channel. Real, in partnership with our educational advisors, created a model that talks about how these 4 petals can help your 2E learner learn at school and thrive. And we bring this workshop to schools. So if you'd like us to present at your school about this or learning different simulations or many other topics related to 2E learners, please let us know. We also wanted to let you know that we have a free 46-page guide to IEP specifically for twice exceptional students. It is for the California Bay Area, although most of it is applicable anywhere, and it has a lot of great resources to overcome the challenges in getting IEPs for twice exceptional learners. And we are very lucky tonight to have 3 amazing speakers. And so I would like to just give you a brief bio of each one, and then we'll get started. So Dr. Kari Berquist has worked with neurodivergent children and their families for over 20 years. She is a pediatric developmental behavioral psychologist with training from UC San Diego, Claremont Graduate University, and Stanford School of Medicine. She is a licensed psychologist in the state of California and a board-certified behavioral analyst. She has a private practice in Menlo Park and is an adjunct clinical assistant professor at Stanford University School of Medicine in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences. She is also a former consultant and advisor to technology-based companies in the area and on the editorial board for the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disabilities. Her clinical work focuses on teaching parents of autistic children and those with neurodifferences of all varying lived experiences how to facilitate meaningful change in the home, at school, and community settings across the lifespan. Her approach to therapy is an individualized, strength-based approach that combines developmental theory and naturalistic teaching strategies based on the principles of behavioral science. Dr. Berquist believes in collaboration with children and parents to develop meaningful goals from a neurodiversity affirming lens. Whenever possible, Dr. Berquist uses children's passions and interests to learn and grow. Dr. Bradley Sue is a licensed clinical psychologist and owner of Gifted Support Services in San Mateo. He brings a compassionate and healing approach to his work with individuals, couples, and families of all ages. With his wide range of experience and inviting style, Dr. Sue creates connections that resonate with clients from children to seniors. He has a deep understanding of the complexities that individuals face, particularly those related to neurodiversity, minorities, and trauma. Dr. Sue's training in neuro and biofeedback, nutrition, coaching, and cultures, EMDR, he strongly understands the dynamic interplay between biology and experience, which he incorporates into his therapy practice. This knowledge is a crucial aspect of his work, helping him to understand how our biology and our experiences influence our development. And Toni Ratzburg is a marriage and family therapist who focuses on supporting gifted and twice exceptional individuals. She is the founder of Beacon Wellness Team, a consulting group based out of San Jose and Redwood City that brings like-minded mental health professionals together in order to empower children, teens, and parents and families through tailored, affirming, inclusive, and creative therapy. Beacon Wellness Team also focuses on providing a healthy and supportive environment where clinicians can learn, grow, and heal so they can live an authentic and fulfilling life and be better able to support their clients. Toni has helped create therapist training programs, school-based therapeutic programs, and is passionate about advocating for the use of sensory-based interventions within therapy. In addition, she is one of 4 gifted siblings and the proud mom of 2 Tui children, ages 12 and 9 years old. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And I believe that Dr. Brad is going to kick us off. So we will
Awesome.
spotlight you.
Cool. Oh, okay. I get to see myself. Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate being here. Okay. And as we jump in, we're talking about anxiety. There's so much to cover. And I just want to take a moment for everyone here who is just taking the time to spend with us to learn, just to take a deep breath, to become part of the moment. And this breath is also for me too, as I'm about to jump in. And as we talk about taking a deep breath, I just want to highlight one thing is that oftentimes when we say take a deep breath, our breath in is only as good as our exhale. So I like to help people understand that exhaling is actually more important than the inhale. So let's take a deep exhale, then a big inhale. Okay, so I'm excited to launch into this. And as I talk about anxiety with 2E, I want to bring together 2 critical areas of focus that can help us understand the landscape of anxiety in twice exceptional children and teens, or twice exceptional individuals of all ages. These are young people who not only have exceptional cognitive abilities, but also face unique neurodevelopmental challenges. And this creates a distinct profile that makes them more vulnerable to heightened anxiety. Okay. So the 2 perspectives that I'm going to be jumping into is first the underlying physiological mechanisms that shape their nervous system and the neurological responses. And then on the other end, the broader social, cultural, and existential factors that contribute to their anxiety. So hopefully this offers a holistic understanding of why this population might be struggling with anxiety and maybe some avenues on how we can support them or at least just understand them better. So when we think about anxiety in twice exceptional kids, it's easy to focus on their cognitive strengths and challenges. But to truly grasp what's happening, we need to dig deeper into their physiological and neurological aspects. So the first thing that we want to talk about in terms of their physiology and neurology that's wired differently is that they respond more intensely to stress and stimuli. So for example, we know that so first thing I want to leverage is Dr. Dabrowski's work on overexcitabilities. So in many 2E individuals that exhibit this overexcitability, there's a heightened response across various domains, such as intellectual, emotional, and sensory overexcitabilities. So these heightened sensitivities can be a source of strength, but they can make them also really susceptible to anxiety. So intellectual sensitivity, so they have a relentless drive for knowledge, constantly thinking through complex problems, anticipating potential issues. But the flip side is that with this ability to think quickly and think deeply, it leads them into a cycle of rumination because their minds work so quickly. Okay. Then emotional sensitivity, so they might be more emotionally reactive, and this is just all wired within, their nervous system. So with this maybe over expressiveness of emotionality, without the emotional self-management skills that, really executive functions are required to execute on self-management skills, then what happens is that they become overwhelmed easily. So these intense feelings start to escalate into anxiety. And then sensory sensitivities or sensory overexcitabilities, being hyper aware of all their um, sensory stimuli, from what they hear, what they feel, what's touching their skin, can lead to, quickly to overload of their nervous system. So there's a couple of other things that are important to think about in terms of what's unique about this population when it comes to anxiety, is that there's a negativity bias. Now, we all know that the brain naturally skews towards noticing potential dangers. This is more prominent in twice exceptional kids, as this is amplified because of their ability to recognize patterns, their ability to have internal algorithms that memorize anxiety, notice the patterns and conditions that created this unwanted event, and then when they put those things together, they're quickly able to recognize, oh, 3 years ago, this was something that led me into an unwanted situation, or I was embarrassed, or I felt bad, and I'm recognizing this pattern again. So in order for me to prepare, for this danger, my nervous system is going to start to react. Okay? Um, Also, with the analytical mind, it unfortunately also means that they're analyzing themselves. And analyzing usually means self-judgment, self-criticism, self-evaluation, that oftentimes just continues to go and go. And again, it requires executive functioning to put the brakes on this type of analytical, self-evaluative cycle. Um, um, Let's see. One of the other things that's important to talk about is the vagal nerve and vagal nerve tone. So for many twice exceptional kids, they have lower vagal nerve tone. So that's the 10th cranial nerve that is responsible for relaxing and calming the body. Okay. So it makes it harder for their bodies to get out of fight or flight, and it leaves them stuck in this state of anxiety. The other thing about the vagal nerve tone is this gut-brain connection, is the information from the gut. So what's happening in the abdomen, the tension, the discomfort, it sends the messages up to the brain, okay? And then telling them that they're in an uncomfortable situation, further triggering anxiety. And the way the vagus nerve is that the vagus nerve communicates in both directions. So it's one of the few nerves that actually goes up and down, where there's a lot of like sensory information, where it'll send information up this way from my body to my brain. So the vagus nerve is also responsible for sending information from my brain to my body. And that's basically in the form of, it's okay for me to relax. It's okay to calm down right now. Okay, so if that's a little bit underactive or less developed, okay, then it's harder to to get those messages down to the body. Okay. The other area that I want to talk about that is particularly important when it comes to gifted, twice exceptional individuals is that they have a heightened sensitivity and awareness, okay, around the social, cultural, global influences, political happenings all around, not only in America, but all around the world. So they understand that this world is really, well connected. They have information from, all across the planet right now. So with easy access to real-time information, today's twice exceptional kids are constantly exposed to global news that includes climate change, political situations that I mentioned, or systemic and social injustice. And as they're absorbing all this information, and also internalizing it. And it's hard for them to process or to make sense or to make meaning out of this. So this awareness, so the gifted ability to understand complex ideas, leads them to feel really helpless. And of course, that turns into anxieties that I understand all these things that's happening. I'm absorbing all this information, maybe at a rate that's, vastly accelerated compared to their peers. So therefore, they're experiencing it in just much greater amount. The other thing is twice exceptional individuals have this ability to contemplate, okay? And that's to think deeply. And with contemplation comes also questioning. So they find it difficult to make meaning out of their lives. So they're searching for meaning. But of course, with all the stuff that's happening globally, so how do I make sense of this? And their minds for seeking information and seeking resolution continues this pattern of I want to continue to think about it. All right. So as we bring all these pieces together, okay, we have these physiological mechanisms that are inherent in the twice exceptional individual. We also have this intersection now of their ability to think deeply and to contemplate, to absorb information, and to receive information all around the world that makes them really powerless and helpless. And it really pulls from meanings like what's going to be left of this planet. And these are deep things that they spend a lot of time thinking about. So with all those things, their susceptibility to anxiety is just, that much higher. Okay. So those are my thoughts on why twice exceptional individuals, fall into this anxiety category much more readily. All right, so I want to hand it back to you guys.
Thank you so much. All of the things you said really resonated with me and my own children. So thank you. And then next up we are already starting to get some interesting questions in the chat. And next up is Toni talking about what to look for in a therapist, when you might need a therapist. So I will let Toni take it away. And Toni, you are still muted, just so you know.
There we go. Forgot to click that button. Is everything sharing okay? Can you guys see it? Okay, great. I just first want to thank everyone for being here tonight, Riel for inviting me, and it's an honor to get to be part of this tonight. My goal tonight is to share a few different ideas that can really help on that journey when you're trying to figure out what to do to help support your child and what to do in the moment when they're feeling anxious. So I'm going to first look at a little bit of what can you do for anxiety at home, and then what do you start looking for in a therapist, things that might be more successful than others, and then share a little bit about the perspective that I take in my practice, which is what I call integrative therapy. And kind of like Dr. Brad, I thought I could use a little bit of calming myself, a little grounding. So I thought we would start with an activity. This one is a very classic grounding activity that we do a lot with clients. And a lot of times it's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But what you do right now is just kind of look around, notice 5 things that you can see in your space that really you weren't paying attention to before we started talking and before I brought this up. And now following the same kind of idea is 4 things that you can feel or you can touch. And 3 things that you can hear. This one might be tricky depending on where you're doing the meeting, but 2 things you can smell. And then finish up with 1 thing you can taste. And if you don't have a taste in your mouth, you can always take a sip of water and just kind of notice what that feels like as you swallow it. So, okay, go ahead and see, there we go. Okay, so I thought we should start with just things to do at home. I will tell you, my slides have a lot of text in them because I just couldn't figure out what to take out, but they're definitely very wordy. So I can share so people can look at it later. It's I don't want to talk all the talking points, but I'd love for you guys to be able to look at it more closely in the future. So one of the things I really think is important to hit on first is you've got to take care of yourself. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of your child. And yes, you can soldier on for a long time, but you're also not modeling healthy management and self-care. So if you take care of yourself, you're better able to take care of them. And you can also use yourself as a tool to let your children overhear you working through your emotions or your challenges. That lets them start to play with ideas, internalize it, just start to think about it. And they learn from what you're doing. They also realize that, hey, some of these emotions I'm experiencing are actually pretty normal. They're not so scary. So that's kind of you start. You start with it, you take care of you, and then you can start thinking about what can we do to help with their anxiety. And an easy thing you can do is take one of their interests and try to connect it to it. My favorite example of this is if they love Harry Potter, Ron and Hermione are fantastic anxiety characters. And there's scenes in the movies, scenes in the books, and a lot of times they'll talk about it if they like the characters. You can also relate a lot of the Pokemon to different anxiety and feelings as well. So something I want to share, which actually I think I did share in a previous talk we did with Briel, but it's something I love to do to help kids and teens practice in social anxiety coping and learn advocacy skills. And it's taking them out to hot cocoa. And so you start where they go in and you model how to place an order. They get this fun, delicious time and connection with you. And then they start to learn, okay, what do I do? How do I do that? They start to practice it. You have them start to order it, interact with the baristas, say hello to people, and then get them to where they can make their own order and build on it, where they actually, make purposeful mistakes, or they can make changes while they're ordering it. Just, things where they have to go, okay, it's not always exactly the same way, but I can handle it. A lot of times you can get their buy-in for something like that because it's fun. They're going out and they're doing something with you. The other thing I like to stress is to use play and humor when you can. You can help them make it fun to, or more fun to confront emotions or to talk about them. But you have to be really careful. You don't want it to fall into the part where they feel like you're teasing them. But a lot of kids really respond to, something lighter and like, oh, here's anxiety again. It decided to show up today. So keeping it light helps. I don't want to spend too long because I know we have a lot of great stuff, but when you're supporting your 2E child with anxiety, focus on their strengths first. And then that helps them feel safer to take risks and to practice things, but it also honors who they are. And you can kind of take any information you find out there from these kind of presentations or from books and say, what is it that my child needs? Okay. And I just want to take a moment to focus a little bit on 2 things I think are very important for our children, and that's connection and co-regulation. With connection, it's something they all want. They all want to have a connection with their parents. And that might look different. Sometimes it might be a 2-second hello. And other times it's like a couple hours of here we are, we're playing together and we're doing activities. So if you help with connection, they're going to feel safer. They're going to feel like they belong. They're going to learn a lot more, and they're going to learn to adapt to things. If they have that secure attachment with you, it's easier to get them to try uncomfortable things with you. And also, when things get really hard and you don't know what to do, go back to connection and say, what can I do there? And that can help your child. Co-regulation is also an incredible tool that parents have, but it's a really hard tool because it's often at the end of the night when we're stressed and we're tired that our children need us to be the most regulated to help them. But if we do our own work, we take care of ourselves, it can be fantastic. Co-regulation is really letting them borrow your regulated feelings so that they can learn to cope and manage with their emotions. I've got a QR code here in the slide. But I also think I sent a link over. I think we can get that into the chat. It's just a short article that I created with Gina Garcia, another marriage and family therapist, and it's more details of how can you do co-regulation. Okay, now I'm going to jump into therapy. And I think it's important to acknowledge that everybody here is probably at a different space. If you're a parent, you might be in a season of parenting where you're like, okay, noticing this is happening, thinking about it. I think it's hard for my kid. I want to think, what can I do? And then others might be on this other side where they're going, I just did an assessment and I have a million recommendations that I have to sift through and I just don't know where to start, which one to prioritize. And there's probably a few people too who are kind of like, okay, I've been through all this stuff and I'm just sure not what else, what else do we do? How else can I help my child? Because it still needs some adjustment. So when you're starting to think about what to do and you're considering therapy, you want to consider a few different things. How they're experiencing anxiety. What is that physical experience of it? Has it changed? Is it impacting their quality of life, keeping them from being able to do things they like? It's easy for us as adults to guess what they might be feeling, but we want to engage and really ask them how they're feeling with it. And I think I put it there first, is if they ask you for therapy, please follow up with that. A child doesn't ask for therapy unless they think that it could help them. And on the other side of it, if you say, hey, my child would benefit from someone other than me, a safe place, a person that they can talk to, that's another good reason to move towards finding a therapist. And the most important thing, if you're ever concerned about your child's safety, so whether it's self-harm, suicidal thoughts, anything like that, you've got that's a big indicator. That's a huge green light to say, go talk to someone, try to get some more support around them. Oh, I think I went, there we go. I just want to touch on the fact that there's a lot of different approaches to therapy, and everyone, even within like maybe the same approach, puts their own spin on it because we're all unique individuals. And it's also important to remember that not everyone has training or experience with twice exceptionality or neurodiversity, and they might look at things in a very different way. So when you get recommendations or you're looking, what should I do for anxiety? How to help my child? Something I know I hear in my practice a lot is that the first thing parents find is CBT. That's what everyone tells them, go do CBT, go do CBT. And what I actually find with CBT is it can be great for some people, but it's not always the best approach for someone who is neurodiverse. And that's because it might encourage them to mask. It might bring up a huge, strong resistance from them. So they either want to write off therapy, they don't want to talk about it, or they're just kind of like, no, don't go there. And I don't want to spend my time trying to get someone to want to do the method. I want them to do the work that they want to do. So be careful when you're going with things. You want to think about who's making recommendations, research things, research if you find an approach, and throw it into Google and say, how does this work with someone who is twice exceptional, or ask another professional and they can tell you like what they have seen, what they've noticed, and what they think about it. There's no simple answer for what the best treatment approach is, but I think neurodiversity affirming care is essential. If you have a twice exceptional child, this is what you need to be looking for, because it really looks to empower your child, let them know their strengths, and then that can help them navigate their challenges. And affirming care really looks as neurodivergent. It's like a natural variation of our human brains. It's not a disorder, it's not a deficiency. And you're going to see interventions that will emphasize acceptance, strength, compassion, and support, because that's the root of what this is. It's tailored to their needs, it's tailored to who they are, and it considers how they access information and how they experience their world. So if you're looking for care, also try to consider finding what neurodivergent voices recommend and what they've thought. So this might be your child if they've had some experiences, or you can find great articles and blog posts and conversations from neurodiverse people who say, hey, when I was a child, this is what I went through and this is what it felt for me. And so just, slow the process down when you're trying to figure it out, and take a little bit of time to research it and think about who your child is and what they would feel best with. Okay, I need to take a breath. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm talking fast. So when we're trying to find a therapist, it can be really hard and really frustrating, especially right now. There is a mental health crisis. We don't have a lot of availability of professionals. And I keep hearing from people that they don't even get phone calls back sometimes when they're trying to find someone and just ask to say, like, do you have availability? So it's hard. And then that might make you want to just jump and say, okay, the first person who does have space, let's get my kid in there. Let's just get it going. Let's make progress with it. But I think it's really important to find the right fit for your child. If it's the wrong fit, it can have heavy consequences. And that might be that they won't go back to therapy or they won't engage with it. So trying to find the right one is so important. And the best way you can do that is you ask yourself and your child if you can feel connected to this person and you can trust them. If the answer is no, they're not the right person for you. And that's okay. There's a lot of people in this world and there's a lot of therapists in this world. And so finding someone who does connect and that you can trust is very important. It's also important that if you don't trust the therapist, but you feel like your child does or might work, you've got to really stay mindful of that, because you don't want your child to pick it up from you and then start to question therapy or question their trust of the therapist. As incongruent you can be with your child, the better it is. The other thing you want to think about is a therapist who will listen and collaborate with you, not someone who's going to tell you everything that you should do. So when they're listening and they're responding, you also want to make sure they're communicating in a way that works for you and for your child. It's really important as parents that we have access to the therapist, even if we're not in the room every time that they're together. We need to know that we can pick up that phone, we can send an email, we can call them. And there's a long list here of other things too, but I do want to mention that if you get through all of this, you find a therapist and you say, okay, I think this checks the boxes. They're affirming, they're listening, they seem to get this, this feels really good. Then I would honestly start to consider, okay, what are their experiences and what are their accomplishments? I wouldn't even go there until you check off the other things, because I think that is so important to find someone that you can trust and you can build that relationship. The other thing to think about when you're finding a therapist is you want your child to be able to go in and not be masked. And yes, there's times they might protect themselves, they may not be fully open, that might be a session, that might be a season, but if they want out of therapy, they're going to figure out how to do it. And if they can figure out what the therapist wants to hear, they can make that happen. The therapist is going to say, oh, all is great, you don't need to be here. And then your child actually probably in a worse space, because now they're like, okay, well, I went to this professional, they didn't get it. Now who can help me? What do I do? So that's another reason, looking at someone who you can connect with, you can trust, and that gets it. A few red flags to look at. I'm kind of laughing because there's a lot of these on here that I took off, but there's so many things to think about. But one of the big things is if someone dismisses your child's experience or your experience. The classic example would be like, all children are gifted. So I don't take into account giftedness, or, I don't deal with this, I don't think about this. You just want to make sure that you agree with what they're saying. You also want to check yourself. It's someone who says, I've seen it all, I know how to do it, or they're really rigid in their approach. They may not provide the flexibility that your 2E child needs to be successful in therapy. If they're not willing to take feedback, or they start to get defensive, if you ask questions or you kind of push back, share some ideas, that's another red flag to say, okay, this might not be the right person for me. Once you've found a therapist, then you've got a couple steps that you do. And this will be, unique to your situation, but also the professional that you're talking with. We all have our own process, but in general, it's going to start with an intake or a consultation conversation. You're going to share some information. There might be some assessments, some questionnaires. The professional gathers information, and you share information, and you ask information about them. You go, does this feel right? Is this aligning correctly? And if it is, and you say, okay, this is a good fit, let's go forward, then you're actually going to also start to do more paperwork and get to do a little bit more historical, because a lot of times we like to know a little bit, but we like to get to know the child for who they are and what they bring into the room. We don't want the entire download history of who they are the first time we meet them. So you also need to take some time to decide, what is this going to look like? Is it going to be individual therapy, which would be a therapist and your child? Is it family therapy? Is it a group of peers? And then what's the frequency look like? Is it once a week, once a month, or do they actually need a higher level of care of that? And the therapist should guide you through this process. They should give you a recommendation. They should talk about it. And ideally, you do what's in the best interest. Sometimes scheduling is an issue, trying to make everything work. And so you have to get creative around it. But if you feel like this person is hearing the need and being present with you, they'll let you know if they need to adjust anything with the frequency. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to share with this part. Okay, that's pretty good. Oh, I did want to mention, with parents involved in therapy, it's really up to you. You can talk about it. Some therapists will naturally include you, bring you in for some check-ins, have regular parent meetings. Others won't, and others will kind of let it roll out and play out depending on what's going on and what your child likes. So if you have a preference, if you say, I really want to be involved, talk with the therapist before you start. Define what that is, or if at some point you have like kind of a question like, hey, I want to change this up, that's okay to ask too. Sometimes we just don't know if therapy is working. And as a parent, we go, is this the right approach? What are we doing? And we feel like, okay, well, we've invested a lot. We want to stay the course, but is that the right thing to do? So when you start to feel like that, I always recommend talk to your child, see how they're feeling about it. If they're feeling similarly, or if they're completely different, that's going to inform what you do. It's also a great time to have a meeting with the therapist and just say, what do you think? Here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I'm seeing. And if you've chosen that right therapist, they're going to be open to having that conversation with you. They're going to want that conversation, because we don't want to waste our children's time. We want them to get the skills that they need and to feel confident and be able to go out and do their life. Something to please keep in mind is that with twice exceptional individuals, therapy can sometimes look different. The pacing might be different. It might be slower. There might be some times where things are going really, really intensely and then they pull back, and that's okay. That's a normal part of the process. But if you do start to feel like you need to make a change and you've gone through things, you've talked to everybody, that's okay. Start looking for a therapist, start exploring it, and also consider, is there something you could do? Could your own therapy help your child if you were to engage in that? And then just a few more thoughts to share with you guys is integrative therapy. So this is an approach that I use in my practice, and really what it does is it interweaves different elements of therapeutic approaches so that I can create a tailored experience for my client. So it's not just, hey, what are their interests, but it's what makes sense to them, what do they relate to, what do they like. It's very strength-based, it's client-centered, and so there's a strong emphasis on the therapeutic relationship and the connection. I see it very aligned with neuroaffirming practices. because it's really honoring who the person is. It's leaning into that instead of the mode of operation. When we're working like this, we're going to observe what are their reactions. We're going to kind of test things out, or we're going to present them with ideas, and we're going to ask them what they need, what they like, so that they get the most time or the best use out of their time with us. Okay. And let's see. So integrative therapy, it's affirming, it's inclusive, it's culturally sensitive. But it also really leaves room for both the client and the clinician, and often parents, that, you know, just acknowledges we're all learning and we're all growing. And it requires some vulnerability in everyone to be able to do that, because you have connection and trust. You know, things happen, and sometimes we have to talk through that. And it's great. It's a wonderful learning experience for everyone, but especially the child that's part of it, because it's, you know, part of being human is to normalize our strengths and our challenges. So one of the reasons I think this approach works really well with twice exceptional people is because it really helps reduce their masking in the sessions. It lets them be them. It lets them have some control or some say. They're guiding it. They're co-creating what their treatment looks like with us, and we're providing information for them. It also honors who they are. A few ways I've used this approach would be use like a walk and talk, where I've got them outside of the office, and we're able to not only process or talk about skills, but we're out in the community. And so there's a lot of different elements that are going on. And so we can use mindfulness to help them increase their self-awareness. We can help them do some self-soothing or grounding when they're in a public setting, and we're doing it in the moment while it's happening. It can also sometimes look like a client is getting their own coping skill development happening by looking at their motivation and their values. So then we can bring in some sensory-based activities that help them self-soothe. They start creating some habits around that. And then as therapy continues, we give unconditional positive regards so that they feel really safe to be encouraged to explore anxiety. And so we're pulling all these pieces in different ways, and we're pacing along with where they are. One fun way I've combined this is with a very active people who come into my office. I will have them take like a ball that can stick to the wall. I don't even know what you would call that, but they would throw it and it will stick to the wall, and they love it. It's fun. And so there's this play element. But then I'll combine like, okay, I want you to think about something. And so we'll think about an emotion, or we'll think about an experience that maybe they haven't been able to or haven't wanted to process with words yet. So I'll say, okay, think about what happened at school last week, what your mom was talking about. Now I want you to throw the ball as if your emotions were coming out of that. And so now they're using it. So it really can pull in the play therapy as well for children. Okay. That's all I've got for you guys here. But I know you got Dr. Brad and Dr. B, who are going to follow up with some amazing approaches that also work great for twice exceptional people. And I just thank you for taking the time to be here, and look forward to hearing the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you so much, Toni. That was amazing. Very helpful. Lots of questions come up in the chat. And Dr. Brad is back up next, and then Dr. Berquist.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about DBT, and that's dialectical behavioral therapy. And DBT is so big, and there's just so much into it. I just couldn't possibly cover everything. So I'm just going to go over some highlights and hopefully land on some takeaways for you guys. First of all, to introduce DBT, it stands for Dialectical Behavioral Therapy. It's a type of cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's originally designed to help individuals who were experiencing intense emotions that were difficult to manage. And it's particularly helpful for those who are 2E. It's a structured approach with a lot of skills and tools. It's actually a skills-based approach, and it's almost to a fault where if it's a pure DBT, the therapy is really talking about only about skills and how skills should have been implemented, or how can we expertly implement a skill in a given situation, or future situations or past situations. Okay, but let's jump back in to DBT. So as I mentioned, DBT comes out of CBT, that's cognitive behavioral therapy. And one of the basics of cognitive behavioral therapy is that cognitions and behavior, so that would be challenging the way we think with cognitive distortions or thought distortions. So that's CBT. DBT focuses and integrates dialectical thinking. That is balancing the opposites. So dialectics are opposites. And the big opposite for DBT is balancing acceptance and change. So holding two truths, any two truths simultaneously, opposed to seeing one thing as interfering with the other thing, just simply understanding that both things are true. Okay. So as I mentioned, is balancing acceptance and change, which I'll talk a little bit about that. But let's talk a little bit about some dialectics that we hold just in everyday life. And a dialectic might be, so say I've eaten dinner, I've had a number of slices of pizza, the pizza tastes great. I'm really full and I want another slice of pizza. Okay, those two truths. Okay, in a more therapeutic context, that might mean the dialectic might mean that I am really wanting to succeed, but I'm really paralyzed by fear. So I said but with DBT, we replaced the but with and, because we're holding both, not seeing both as opposites. So we can understand that for many of us, in our lives, we really want to do well, but there's so many things that are getting in the way, or things that we're afraid of, things that we think might be in opposition to wanting to do well, right? In traditional therapy, we would think that, well, if you're afraid of doing well, we really need to spend, a lot of time just working through the fear. And once we work through the fear, the pathway would just all of a sudden appear. And that's not true, right? With dialectical behavioral therapy, it's like, you want to do well, we can talk about that. And you're really afraid about it, we can talk about that, because those things are, can exist perfectly together. And that's how actually reality is. So let's talk about some, so that's dialectics. Okay. So as I mentioned, DBT is about skills. And the core skills are mindfulness. Okay, so that's awareness, becoming more aware. And another way of talking about mindfulness and awareness is just noticing. Okay, it's just increasing our ability to notice things. Distress tolerance, and that's a real big one. It's big in DBT, and why it's so helpful now is because in the current the current thoughts is that as parents, we've become really concerned that distress equals trauma. So if I allow my child to experience distress, I might be allowing them to be traumatized. So then we have a multiple generations of parents saying, well, maybe I should really just remove distress, so at least I can solve for potential of trauma. So we have, so many children and teenagers now kind of not really experiencing as much everyday distress or age appropriate or developmentally appropriate distress. And when I talk about distress in this way, I really do also mean hermetic stressors, right? And hermesis, the idea that this stressor, or strain is actually going to make me stronger. So distress tolerance is really appropriate for this population. And emotional regulation is another big core area, is what skills can we use to emotionally self-manage. And I replaced the word regulation with self-manage, because self-management is really, or management of emotions is such a more active approach than regulation. Like we regulate, like we create rules. That's where we have regulations around the city, county, and state. In the country, we create regulations. We don't create regulations with ourselves. We create management. The only thing we can do with emotions is manage our emotions. Regulations like really sounds so constricting, and then it leads into all these other things around the misuse of the word regulation. But a big core principle is emotional self-management. And the other core principle is interpersonal effectiveness. Okay, so I'm going to jump in a little bit into, let's see. I just want to talk about two things, because I want to make sure we save time for all the other speakers and the questions. And the two things I want to talk about that might be great takeaways that come out of DBT is the skill called riding the wave. And riding the wave is where, just as it sounds, when you're in the ocean, okay, maybe on a boat, and the wave goes up, or on a surfboard and the wave goes up, and then what happens is the wave goes up. As the wave passes, then you just go back down. Okay, so riding the wave is about allowing emotions to come through, okay, observing these emotions, and then allowing it to pass. So one key principle that I teach, I teach regularly, that's related to this for parents, is simply as parents are, practicing distress tolerance, practicing riding the wave. One thing that we want to do is to allow time for the wave to come up and the wave go down. It's just one simple concept, and that is underreact. Okay. What happens often is that when it comes to parents and parenting, of course, our children are under a lot of distress. They might be struggling. We think they're dysregulated, but in reality, what's happening internally is they're seeking regulation. So what we want to do is underreact so that they could get to regulation themselves, okay? As parents, we only see the dysregulation, but we're missing that piece, is that the dysregulation is an attempt at getting to regulation. So if we jump in so quickly to support or to maybe even empathize, then we're going to throw off that, that ability to learn self-management. Okay, so riding the wave, okay, underreacting is important. And those things both fall into the category of increasing distress tolerance. All right, okay. Let's see. Okay, was there another one? Let's see. Okay. Okay, all right. I think I'm gonna hand it over to Kari. Oh, wait, I'm gonna talk about medications real quick, right? Okay. So I just want to acknowledge, there's just going to be a brief portion about medications. It's understandable that so many of us have questions about medications, and medications really pose this hope, right? This hope that we think that we're going to be able to just reduce the, just reduce the symptoms, create a better lifestyle. So it's natural for, almost everyone to consider the possibility. Okay. But as was mentioned in the very beginning, just to clarify our roles as therapists, we don't prescribe or manage medication. So it's really outside of our scope to talk very specifically about medications. But, I can talk a little bit about, when to seek, medications. And it really is when we think about, as a holistic and integrative provider, we think about, considering medications if all the foundational strategies don't seem to be really producing, the results along the journey. Okay. And that means optimizing for sleep, optimizing nutrition, optimizing therapy. And if it doesn't reduce the severity of symptoms, now, when we're talking about severity of symptoms, we're not just saying, oh, that we hope that my child's going to feel better. We hope that my child's just going to be happier. We're really looking at this one piece is that, are the symptoms getting in the way so much that it's causing an impact to everyday functioning? Is it getting in the way so that a child's not able to do what they are capable of doing for their age? So if it's going to school, that the symptoms are getting in the way of going to schools, the symptoms getting in the way of interacting with friends and family. Now, this is a little bit different from my kids able to do all these things, they're just not enjoying it. And that because they're not enjoying it, I'm really nervous or concerned that it's going to turn into this, and that other thing. So therefore, we're thinking about medication. It's really if it's getting in the way to the degree that it's impairing those things, not just impairing the enjoyment. Okay. Of course, there's so many things to consider, and I don't want to just take my statement there and saying that's, the bar which we should have. It's really also to do with the length of time. Now, if someone is, having those symptoms that I'm describing, but it's over many years, then I wouldn't just say, oh, well, Dr. Brad said it's fine that they don't enjoy it. We really want to think about a big picture here too, and a long-term trajectory. The other thing that I just want to validate in your consideration is that everyone has personal beliefs about medications. Everyone has personal fears about medications. You could have religious or cultural, values or belief. You should work with a psychiatrist or a pediatrician that's going to honor all those things. One of the things that that's disappointing to see is that where families get arm twisted, say, well, depression's like a broken leg, and you have to kind of believe that I don't think that arm twisty thing is kind of really a good way to kind of join around the possibility that medications can be really helpful. But really a person that's going to be able to honor, say, yeah, I get it. I understand. You should be concerned. You should be hesitant. Any empathic or validating psychiatrist to be, I understand too. I would be in that same place, and all the questions and concerns that you have, are valid. So it's a lot to navigate. Those are just some of the thoughts of, what I have and how I've help families kind of navigate through the decision-making process about when is it time to add this to, the toolkit. All right, so let me.
Thank you so much,
Oh,
Dr.
you're welcome.
That was super helpful. And next up, we have Dr. Berquist speaking about space. And there's been a lot of questions in the real group about space recently, so it's starting to get more popular.
Thank you. Let me just figure out how to. Sorry. I guess. Oh, I don't want that. Okay. All right, I'm going to talk about space. I'm really excited to talk about space because it is a new treatment that I've been doing over the last 2 years. And I'm a parent trainer, parent educator by trade. And this, I think, is, especially going after Brad, and we talk about surfing the urge and riding the wave. That is basically what space is helping parents learn how to ride the wave and help their child learn how to regulate themselves. Um, and I think it's been really helpful for kids who have definitely not responded to more of the like DBT or CBT or some of these more traditional like individual therapies. Um, no, of course it's not going to want to work. Okay, there we go. All right, so what is SPACE treatment? So SPACE stands for Supportive Parenting for Anxious Childhood Emotions, and it's an evidence-based treatment developed by Dr. Ellie Leibowitz of the Yale Child Study Center. It's as effective as cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT, which, as you've been hearing tonight, it's actually one of the gold standards for child anxiety treatment. I would say DBT and acceptance and commitment therapy are also very much in play, and those are the more individual-based therapies. But this is different because it's a parent-based therapy. So, and space has been shown to be effective for anxiety, OCD, ARFID, that's the restrictive eating, and failure to launch. And parents are the ones that actually go to the session. So children do not participate, and it focuses on actually changing the way parents respond to their child's anxiety. So the child does not have to be a willing participant. And I know this is a big issue that, and I think I saw this in the chat, is, and I think Toni spoke to this as well, is that, if the child is not willing to participate in therapy, like therapy probably won't be very effective because they're not bought in and they might not want to, maybe they don't think there's anything wrong, or maybe they are fine with just how things are. And so when you're not a willing participant, those individual therapies are not really going to work very, okay? So willingness is the key to change. But this therapy, the child does not have to be a willing participant, just the parent has to be a willing participant. And there are no demands actually placed on the child to do something except with failure to launch. That's the one exception. All right, so what's the theory behind space? So space is based on the theory that child anxiety is actually an interpersonal event between the child and the parent. So humans are mammals, right? And mammals are hardwired to protect their young. And children are hardwired to signal to the caregiver, to their parents, that they need help, right? And that the parents need to step in when they're distressed, particularly when the child is a baby or an infant or a young child who can't really take care of themselves, right? Something bad's happening, baby's going to be crying, like, help me, right? And just similarly, parents are hardwired to respond and detect fear and distress cues in their children. And they also provide this regulation and soothing, which is what we were just talking about, kind of this regulation, helping the child manage their anxiety. So there are two main ways that kids cope with uncomfortable emotions. I actually like Dr. Brad's self-management because I do self-management, I believe in self-management, but all the literature is self-regulation and emotion regulation. So like I am right behind you about like being on the charge of probably changing that. But self-regulation requires that willingness that I was just talking about. And if your child is not willing to take the deep breath and to like do the things that they need to do or find something that helps them manage those really tricky, intense emotions, especially that 2E kids have. Remember, they tend to feel their emotions bigger than other people because they're more sensitive. It requires practice. They have to practice these skills and they have to practice them when they're not dysregulated. Because if they don't practice them when they're not dysregulated, they definitely can't use them when they're dysregulated, right? And it requires the child to actually learn a new skill. And again, if you don't have willingness, I'm not certain that self-regulation is going to be developed. So what other systems do they have? Co-regulation. Parents helping them regulate their emotions or the environment. And as I just said, it is absolutely essential in the early years when children are very young for their parents to help co-regulate. However, if the child becomes over-reliant, just like Dr. Brad said, it prevents the child from learning self-regulation. If they can't feel that distress and then figure out what should I do, they're never going to learn how to self-regulate. It absolutely helps in the short term. The child gets on the bus. I saw that comment too. The child gets on the bus. The child goes, right? But the cycle actually continues and it doesn't help in the long term. So what is the relationship between anxiety and self-regulation? So just like Dr. Brad said at the beginning of this whole talk, is that we tend to see anxiety is higher in this neurodivergent population. Okay. So in the general pediatric population, we see 5 to 10% have an anxiety disorder. In the neurodivergent community, we have autism, ADHD, learning disabilities. We see it's much, much higher, right? The autism population, it's 40%, ADHD, it's 25 to 50, and learning disability, it's 29-ish, right? So we definitely see this higher level anxiety. And what we also know about anxiety is that when you have high anxiety and pediatric anxiety disorders, you have low self-regulation. Dr. Leibowitz actually wrote this amazing chapter on this, and it's not in his newest book, but it's in this other book, and it is amazing. It's like you could substitute it for, inflexibility. You could substitute for anything, but this understanding of how anxiety impacts one's self-regulation. And we see it in these 2E children and neurodivergent children. We see high anxiety and we see low self-regulation, right? Because we need those executive functioning skills. Okay, so here comes the accommodation, family accommodation. So family accommodation, you're going to think about it as kind of co-regulation. Now, in the earlier years, as I said, is very appropriate. An accommodation could be like a parent orders for the child because they can't develop mentally or due to stranger anxiety, which is normal and protective. However, as the child matures, the child will begin to order for themselves. They'll be able to self-regulate. Maybe the child will feel nervous, but uses strategies to order their own food in a restaurant. It's funny because actually Toni mentioned this as well. And then we have the anxious child. Now, the anxious child will have the same exact accommodation as this child on top, but maturation alone does not lead to self-regulation. The family accommodation will persist because they just won't do it. So the parents will keep ordering for the child what to eat, despite the child's ability, because the child feels too anxious, too distressed, because it's expected. It's a rule that they've always followed. And early in the childhood, it was absolutely adaptive. Parents need to do this. They have to do it. But now it's actually preventing the child from being independent. Okay. All right. So what are the aims of SPACE? So the aim of SPACE is to help children get better at handling any anxiety or distress. It's the feeling that I can handle this feeling. I can get through this situation and not have my parents rescue me and take it away. And so the goal is the aim is that to help them handle the feeling. And the number one is because we can't get rid of fear, nor do we want to. We have this natural, we need to know when danger is happening. So we can't get rid of anxiety. That is an unrealistic expectation to get rid of anxiety. Number two, we can't control our thoughts and feelings. That's not possible. So anxious thoughts and desires to have things a certain way will always happen. So we have to just know how to handle it. Okay, so the two main goals of SPACE are to increase support and to decrease accommodations. I want you to think about these little weights as anxiety, the feelings of anxiety. So support is to show the child, hey man, I get it. Anxiety's rough, but I think that you can handle it. And I know it's tough, but look at me. I'm also showing you I can handle it too. But I'm not going to help you. You can handle it even though it's hard. Decreasing accommodations is the combination of, oh, this parent goes, oh, I don't think my child can handle this anxiety. So I need to come in and help them. So let me help you, dear. So the goal is to decrease those kinds of accommodations that are not helpful. All right, increasing support. So support in SPACE is very formulaic. It has two components. The first is acceptance and validation of the uncomfortable feeling. and confidence that the child can handle the feeling, not do the thing, not get through something, the feeling, handle the feeling. And that's what support is in space. So here's an example of a supportive statement. I know it's hard when you have to order for yourself, but I believe that you can get through it. And that's what we call a supportive statement. Okay, family accommodation. So family accommodations are anything a parent says or doesn't say or doesn't do to prevent or stop uncomfortable feelings in their child associated with anxiety. So these are two examples. So one, we have what we call participatory, and one is modification. So participation and modification accommodation. So the first one is the modification. So the little kid says, no, you don't eat cereal, only I eat cereal, right? So then the parent's like, oh no, I'm not having these good feelings. They're gonna yell at me every time I eat my cereal. So maybe I'm gonna eat my cereal before the kid wakes up. Maybe I'm gonna eat eggs. Maybe I'm gonna eat something else. So the parent might start accommodating and not eating cereal in front of the child. And that would be the accommodation. Okay. And for this parent, they might say, I don't care how many degrees you have, nothing prepares you for a teen who finds their phone didn't charge overnight. Okay. So a parent might begin to, because the child gets very dysregulated, they can't get out the door. It's, oh my goodness, it's a 5-alarm fire. Parent might charge the child for the phone, but might charge the phone for the child. And I have done both of these in space. These have definitely been two accommodations I've addressed. Here is, so I use young Sheldon a lot in my treatment because there's so many family accommodation good examples in that show. And here's what happened was Sheldon choked on a sausage or something in the morning and he started not eating food, not eating solid food. And so his mom decided, okay, well, we're going to figure something out. So I'm going to accommodate. So this is a video of her accommodating his anxiety about eating solid food. Can you hear it?
You're actually cutting the crust off before you blend it?
I left it on his tuna sandwich yesterday. He said he could tell. Only drank half of it.
Mary, you think this has gone on long enough?
No trouble. But it'd be better if I had 2 blenders.
It'd be better if you stopped coddling him.
Well, I don't know what else to do. I suggested that we take him to some kind of professional, but you said he'd outgrow it.
Well, if you're looking for a psychiatrist, I bet my new fella's related to one.
What do you think?
I'm not sure. If we take him to a shrink, it feels like we're admitting something's wrong with him.
He hasn't had solid food in 5 weeks. Thank you. Needs a few more Cheetos.
Okay. So the example there of the accommodation is that she's obviously blending his food. She says that she even needs 2 blenders to make her job easier. She's cutting the crust off his food. She's putting in there. She's checking it. Those are all what we would call an accommodation for the child who's experiencing anxiety. And that is how it happens. Some event could happen, and then it gets to that point, and a parent just doesn't know what to do, right? So what I believe is happening is that there's this parallel process happening for parents. So on the one side, we have the child who's feeling uncomfortable, and then they say, help me, or they're upset, or they're getting dysregulated, and they get the parents to help them take away the feeling. They avoid the feeling or thought, and it maintains the anxiety. But what's happening for the parent is that the parent's having an uncomfortable thought or feeling about the child having an uncomfortable thought or feeling. They want to avoid the dysregulation for themselves and for their child. They help try to take away that feeling so they avoid the dysregulation, and that maintains the accommodation. And so we have this, what we call an accommodation trap, where the child begins to have distress or a worry thought about how things should be expected, and then it becomes a family accommodation. So for example, the most common accommodation that I see is answering repeated questions. Okay, so for example, this kid is very anxious about being late. Am I going to be late? The parent says, no, we won't be late. You'll be okay. Am I going to be late? And then the cycle continues until they get to school. And the parent goes, phew, made it. He stopped asking me these questions. Then the child becomes reliant on the parent for regulation. The child will begin to think, the only way I can be okay is if dad answers my questions and tells me I will be okay. The symptoms continue, and then the child continues to have the worry thought, and the worry thought actually can get worse. I really hope I won't be late. Maybe I have to ask 30 times. Okay, one of the questions that was given was that are all accommodations unhelpful? No. When it is meant to avoid more or cope less, it is unhelpful. If it reinforces your child's belief that they can't cope with anxiety or avoid situations that are likely to trigger it, it is also unhelpful, or there's no path towards independence. So here's an example of the wanting to know what time it is. Excuse me. Your child wants you to reassure them several times a day you won't be late. A helpful accommodation would be say you respond one time each day about the time and you provide your child access to a watch. Sorry, I'm overcoming a cold. There's all this talking. All right, an unhelpful accommodation for this is you respond every time your child asks a question and you reassure them they won't be late. All right, so who should consider space? So parents who are providing any family accommodations to help their child cope with anxiety, children who are unwilling to participate in individual therapy. This isn't a requirement for space. You could be in therapy, in individual therapy, and also be doing space at the same time. Haven't seen individual therapy make much progress. Sometimes reducing family accommodations really has shown to impact the success of the traditional treatment. So like non-responders of individual treatment, it could be because their accommodations were too high. And so we have to get those accommodations down, and then they'll respond better to traditional treatment. The other thing that's really cool about space and family accommodations is that you see gains in non-targeted areas. So for example, it could be like a gain in an area that's like not related to a family accommodation, but it's related to their anxiety. So for example, maybe like they stop engaging in checking or something that's not even related to the parent, but we see improvement in their functioning as you reduce family accommodations. Other considerations. So working with a provider that is neurodivergent informed and experienced, I think this is extremely important. It goes back to what Toni was saying. Space really needs to be adapted and modified and made to be more neuroaffirming. I have made some accommodations to the way I do space in order to make it more neuroaffirming, because we definitely do not want to be trying to mitigate certain restrictive repetitive behaviors that are actually meant to kind of cope with anxiety, and they actually are self-regulation strategies. So we don't necessarily want to do that, and a trained person might not, who isn't understanding of neurodivergent individuals might not understand that. It can be used for insistent on sameness and tolerance of uncertainty. So I have developed a protocol for using space for inflexibility and or insistent on sameness. And I actually have started a research study at Stanford, and we just got RV approval. So we are recruiting for individuals, but the child has to be autistic and between the ages of 6 and 10. But if you're interested, so it doesn't address anxieties per se, but it is focusing on this, insistent on sameness. And you can email the study at this email address. All right, things to do and not to do. So these are kind of like my takeaways. So 1, educate yourself. Learn more about space and see if it's something that your family wants to pursue. 2, try out supportive statements. Using statements that have both validation and confidence in the face of distress are helpful even if you still accommodate, according to Dr. Leibowitz. He actually said that if he could do one thing, it would be to like meet with all the pediatricians and just talk about supportive statements. If he only had like 5 minutes, he would teach them about supportive statements. If you listen to this talk and then you just realize that you're doing accommodations, do not start removing these accommodations, okay? It is just one of the biggest errors is removing accommodations without having proper supports and pieces in place. So remember, you're going to have to ride this wave of dysregulation. If you don't have what you need to ride that dysregulation, you don't know what the plan is, then it might be very hard to follow through, and it can maybe make it worse. So we don't want to remove accommodations, and you definitely shouldn't do multiple at a time. All right, modeling. So model using supportive statements on yourself, to your child, state when you feel anxious and how you manage that feeling, which Toni also talked about earlier. Modeling, I can never stress enough how important it is to speak out loud how you're thinking and feeling, especially individuals who have difficulty with perspective taking. They need to hear what you're thinking. All right, and getting training. So finding a provider to help you learn space techniques, you can do it in about 12 weeks. All right, this is the website for spacetreatment.net where you can find providers. This is his TED Talk, which I think is really good. That gives you a little bit more explanation. And this book is the most child-friendly or parent-friendly book. So the one on the corner that's in blue is the one that was really meant for parents. All right, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was amazing. And we got a ton of questions, so I'll probably start with some of those. Callie, are you able to put our 3 speakers in the spotlight? Callie or Abby? So some of the questions that we got about space, what ages is space appropriate for? And is it, what about if a child has sensory sensitivities? Is it accommodation which is helpful or not helpful?
So space, I mean, the youngest I've used it with is 3. And then it can go up to, because of failure to launch, it definitely goes into the young adults. My practice only goes to 18, but I've used it from 3 to 18. If they're younger, it's really not something that you can necessarily use, but you can always adapt it using pictures and visuals. I've used it with kids who are even not as verbal, and have had some really good success as well. What's the other question about space?
Sensory sensitivities, is it an accommodation to accommodate sensory sensitivities?
No, you absolutely should accommodate sensory sensitivities. So that wouldn't be, so for example, one way I would deal with it in space would be that I would want them to be independent with their sensory accommodations, meaning like if they needed to bring headphones somewhere, it's making them more responsible for bringing their headphones, being, instead of relying on the parent to always be responsible and thinking about those things. But absolutely, we need to address the sensory sensitivities.
And one last question about that is, does space still work if only one parent is doing it, or does the whole family have to be involved?
Space does work if just one parent does it. No, so, I mean, obviously it's better if everyone's involved, but if just one parent is doing it. Oh, what I will actually, to go back on the sensory sensitivity in the book, there is an actually like very non-nerve affirming sensory, example in there. And I just don't agree with how they address it. So that's one of the important things where somebody who's traditionally trained in space would consider doing the sensory, like, yeah, we're just gonna let the blender go as loud as it can be and all this, other stuff. So, so that is something you have to be aware of. That in the book it actually has an example that is not great.
Good to know. Good to know to look out for that. So we had a bunch of questions asked in advance of the talk, and then I'm going to blend them together. Someone asked, the space work for kids with the PDA profile? How do you reduce demands and pressure while also not accommodating? And I would love for Toni, Dr. Brad, to weigh in on PDA as well, because that's a common topic we hear about on Real. So I'll let Dr. Berquist start about space and PDA.
Yes. Yes, PDA, I have had some cases where it has been extremely effective. And of course we take them away slowly and methodically and everything, but it absolutely has been a game changer. Like, because these kids have really, intense insistent on sameness and anxiety, we want to make sure that we help them so that they become really what's really cool about space is that I've also seen how proud kids are of themselves and how much more confident they are, things they just didn't believe that they could do, just so much stronger, functioning a lot better. And, space has also been used for school refusal. Failure to launch, they also say is, a symptom of lots of kids who've had school refusal have failure to launch. And a lot of the research on failure to launch is really severe anxiety, and so where these other traditional treatments just haven't been very helpful because you don't place demands on the child. You are just setting your boundaries as a parent. It's like, I will not do this anymore. I will not do this anymore. I will no longer respond in this way, or I'm no longer going to do X, Y, and Z. And like, and so that's really what they do. I mean, they don't always like that the parents are doing those things, but eventually they are able to do it themselves. And I've just seen like a massive change in their self-confidence, which is the coolest part about space is their pride.
Does anyone else want to touch on PDA?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? I don't know if oh, okay. Yeah, so in a separate note, when I think about, PDA, I do think about the idea of, if it is, demand avoidance, is there a way to move the demand, which I'm going to replace the word to ask? Can we move the ask a day in advance? Can we make it transparent? Can we make them predictable? And what I'm wanting to help reduce is the nervous system reactivity and then that behavioral training that when I might say, and, people whose parents could really resonate with this, was that I was actually asking my kid if they wanted ice cream and they were like, no, why are you asking me? Is like, okay. And why would a child be yelling and screaming if a parent's asking them if they actually want something that they want? Is because of this behavioral reaction that's been ingrained through the interaction. So if I can take these demands and move them outside of a conflictual time, plan on them to say, hey, can we talk about these things? And I'm not asking you now, but asking you for the next day. And I'm not suggesting that that's going to be magic or it's going to remove any conflict or all of a sudden PDA is going to go away. But what we're doing is doing those two things, making the ask transparent. And the secondly is removing that trained interaction that when something comes out of my mouth as a parent, that my child already is gearing up to scream back or to say no or to throw something. Those are just my thoughts about the, interventions or approaches, and even maybe some ways to think slightly differently about that behavioral piece around it.
I would echo what you've both said. And I think my approach has always been to really try to investigate what's going on. What is happening in the body, what's happening with the emotions, but also with the parents. So this is a time where I definitely like the parents to be involved in the work, even if we're traditionally doing individual therapy. Working with PDA, I think it's so important to look at all of the different dynamics of what's happening. And a lot of the support does go to the parents so that they can feel better and they can then help them through the moment.
All great advice, and I'm taking notes for myself. So I want to acknowledge that it is 8:30 and it is the official wrap-up time. We have so many questions that if you guys are okay, but no pressure at all if you have to go, I want to honor your time. If people can stay 10 more minutes, I'll keep asking questions. But if anyone has to go, I completely understand. Yeah, okay, I appreciate that. So we have some questions. It was asked a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's actually a really good question. How do you ride the wave when there's barely any time to be prepared for the school bus?
Yeah, so one of the things I did reply, but I'd like to expand on it. And in my reply, I said that, time constriction is and time pressure is just a real phenomenon for anyone living or most everyone living in the Bay Area. And it really is going to get in the way of what we have, access to, and certain things that are more involved when we're late or needing to be somewhere. There's no time to do pros and cons lists, or to, even be mindful if, the child's going to be late, and then you're going to be late, and then, the third child's going to be late. We just totally understand and empathize that, riding the wave at that moment isn't, the ideal, approach. So we would pick riding the wave where we can just allow for time and space for a child to experience, experience that emotion. And experience emotion is just what emotions are designed to do, is designed to just allow us to feel. We oftentimes think that emotions are designed for us to solve, or it's information. It is that, but it really is. Emotions are just designed for us to feel. So if the child's feeling something, just allowing them to feel. Okay, but what do you do? So I don't want to leave you with just this idea that, well, okay, there's nothing we can do. What it's very similar to what I just kind of mentioned, is that if there's something that's going on at the moment of leaving, what can we do the night before, the day before, or even the weekend before? Is there a collaborative, to leverage some other ideologies, a collaborative problem-solving approach? Is that, so this is a Saturday morning conversation, or a Sunday morning conversation, not, Monday or Tuesday morning. Is like, when this happens, what ideas should we have? What should we put into place so that, when you're feeling this way, we could, have these tools, or if appropriate, and not many of these conversations don't necessarily work. It takes a few tries, because a 7-year-old's not necessarily going to be able to express themselves, or even know to say, what kind of things are getting in the way of you, getting, leaving for school. Is there something that we could do the day before, the night before? Is it that you want more time with this? Do you want more? And I don't want to suggest that you're asking and doing all this, Sherlock Holmes kind of investigating all these different pieces, but it is really about just opening up a dialogue, well in advance. And the final thing that's hard to say is sometimes it is a distress tolerance, not on the parents, but a distress tolerance. It is a stressor for the child that they have to, that is a developmentally appropriate stressor that they need to learn the skills and tools to navigate. And it might be just being patient through. And of course, when I say being patient, it also means being late enough times just to allow for them to develop that ability to just sit with the distress without the pressure of, being on time, without the demands, without, the sense of the fact that when I get upset, I'm disappointing all the people around me. So yeah, I know that's a long answer. It's really, I
Thank
try to
you.
be as specific as
Great
possible.
answer. Thank you. No, it's a great answer. Someone asked, can kids get over anxiety, or is it just about accepting that it's part of who they are? I thought that was a great question. Who would like to jump on that one? Toni, you have the smile of someone who wants to share.
I was gonna say, I mean, anxiety, like when I said in my talk, right? Anxiety it's never gonna go away. Like it's part of who we are as people, right? And I think, from what we were talking about, it's like, but how do you manage them when anxiety comes? And are you going to manage those feelings? And it, you know, um, especially if you have these things that you want to be doing, but you have this anxiety and this, and so, we talk a lot. I mean, I know DBTs like that, acts like that. Like we talk a lot about what do we care about? How can we allow anxiety to be there and still do the things we want to do and have the life we want to live? And And even when anxiety shows up, right? It's anxiety is never going to go away. You could improve or lessen the like symptoms or the, if it's been like your world has gotten smaller, is kind of like how we talk about it, is like as your functioning got less, as your life gotten smaller, and how do we expand your life so that it's a meaningful life that you want to be living, and you're not just shrinking your world because of anxiety. And so that's really that definitive line of like when anxiety is paralyzing versus and really impacting the quality of your life, and when is it like there because like it's just there and it always will be and it's part of us, just like happiness and sadness and all the other wonderful emotions that we have. And that's really like more how I would talk about it with your child, as that like the goal is never to get rid of it. It's just how do I manage it and live the life I want to live.
I love that. We have a couple questions about diet that I'll weave together. How much can diet be the cause of anxiety and dysregulation? And then there's a question about ARFID. I think Dr. B, you said space can be good for ARFID, but then later that we shouldn't use space on sensory issues. So I just wanted to clarify that.
So ARFID, like there's 3 different categories of what ARFID, like there's different kinds of permutations of what ARFID shows up as. It could be like phobia of new foods. It could be sensitivity of like certain textures and things like that. But then there could also be these other components of like trauma that you had with the food, like kind of like young Sheldon. And so there are different components. And so there's like the sensory issues and then there's other things. So they're not all the same. And so, but a lot of kids who have ARFID, they're not meeting their nutrition and things like that. So we have to think of, especially if it's like neophobia, like fear of new foods, or I have rules around foods, or I just don't eat new things. And we definitely want to use something like space or other strategies to help the child be able to expand their diet, especially if they're not meeting their weights, they're not, growing, those kinds of things. So that feels more of like, it's not just sensory, that's like the bottom answer, or like but it can be like in some ways. And so like you need a professional in order to like actually diagnose or figure out what's going on and what would be an appropriate treatment for your child.
I'm going to close on a super timely question. I'm glad Dr. Brad mentioned sensitivity to current events, political and geopolitical. How can we help 2E kids who are deeply troubled by the recent election cope with their anxiety about how it may cause suffering to people, animals, and the planet? Tough question. Anyone want to weigh in?
I can jump in with how I've been working with people over the last week or so. And a lot of it is validating their feelings, like letting them know that it's okay that those feelings are there, and asking them what they need. And I let them be the guide. This has worked for many different ages. But what do you need right now? And if it's okay, I need a sense of safety. Okay. And I'll ask them, okay, what should we do? Should we look at it and try to find reasons that you can feel safe? Should we find people you can talk to at home, and co-create that with them, but not take away that this is really hard or that they're having those feelings and that they're scared. Just leaning into what they want then, and that it's okay that the feelings are there.
All right, thank you all so much. We have a bunch of other questions, but I want to honor everyone's time and it's getting quite late. And so to everyone who's here, we will send out slides and the recording and contact information for our 3 speakers. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I learned a lot from this talk and I'm sure everyone else did too. And there's a lot of kudos in the chat. So thank you all so much. You've helped a lot of people tonight. So have a good night.
Thank you.